things first, you're gonna need to duplicate this reference that we're gonna use, that we're gonna study, we're gonna analyze. So what you're gonna do is press Ctrl J, then you drag it to the left, then press Ctrl U, then max out the lightness for the copy that you did, and then you're gonna have an exact copy or an exact canvas size of your reference. So you don't have to worry about figuring out if it's the same length or width. At least that's dealt of already. Okay? Now, in terms of priority, this is what we're gonna do first. Okay? Use basic forms. Don't distract yourselves with unnecessary details for this piece. You're merely doing thumbnail studies or composition studies for this particular piece. So all you need to identify are the big forms or the basic shapes for each element that you see in this canvas. And afterwards, you need to identify focal point. In this case, the focal point is obviously focal point is this one. Okay. Now what I'm doing here with my layers here for my notes, for example, this layer here, I've added a color overlay. I'm gonna remove this. I'm gonna show it to you guys. So now, without the color overlay, it's black because the color that I picked is black. But let's say I want it to be a constant red. What I can do is add a color overlay layer, then choose the color that I want. Let's say sky blue. Okay, and there you apply it on your layer, and then it automatically assigns a color that you want for this particular layer. So even if I pick, let's say, a red color for my brush, it's still gonna stay blue. If you want it to change, you can just pick the color and then click OK, and then you're good to go. Obviously, this is the focal point of this piece. Now, usually, um, the focal point goes to where your eyes usually linger the most. Now here, on this Rapunzel piece, your eyes automatically is attracted to this area because everything they're the only figures in this forest landscape. Automatically, by contrast, or because they're the odd ones out, your eyes are automatically attracted to these two guys right here. So we've already identified our focal point. Now we have to now determine its placement on our picture plane. This is our picture plane, right? So where is it located? Is it in the middle? No. So it's at the bottom part of our, in terms of its verticality, where is it located vertically? It's not in the middle, so it's slightly below. Okay, and from there, where is it located? Is it to the left or to the right? Where does the artist favor the focal point? Is it leaning to the left or leaning to the right? It's leaning to the left. So automatically, this placement here creates more interest than, let's say, placing your canvas dead, or placing your focal point dead smack in the middle of your of your canvas. Well, for example here, okay. If you place the focal point here in the middle, and then we add vertical lines and then horizontal lines from that point, as you can see, there's gonna be rectangular shapes that are formed. Now what's happening here is, as you can see, they're all almost identical shapes. So when you're producing these lines from the focal point, from the dead center of your piece, you're dividing your picture plane into four equal quadrants. So what's happening here is it's gonna get boring, okay? Because everything's the same. So you don't want that in composition. You want to add variety, and that variety starts with you introducing the focal point to a interesting position. So as you can see here, I've already placed I've already determined the point of the focal point, or I place horizontal. I place intersecting lines for this focal point. So as you can see now, what happened was there are already there's already a variety of shapes or rectangles that are already formed, or they're already um, variety of rectangular forms that are already in your piece. So what happens there is you're creating interest already by that simple placement, or by that thoughtful placement of your focal point. So you always start with that. Okay, if you have your focal point, you place it interest in an interesting manner. Okay, so what this artist did was place it in a very very good manner, in which it creates a lot of interest already by the simple placement. Okay, so I'm gonna name this layer so you can see later. Okay, I'm gonna name this layer as quadrants of tripling. Okay, boring picture plane. I will boring focal point. Then interesting focal point. Now we're gonna apply this. Now we've already identified the placement now, so we can draw it now. So I'm gonna do a better drawing of the focal point. I'm drawing it on a separate layer, so I can easily move it around if it's not placed properly. Now I'm not really trying to copy the figures. I'm only after the basic shape. So I'm just merely drawing them as stick figures. Just enough to get the point across that these two are figures. Okay? Don't just draw them like this. No, no, no. You draw them with form, with volume. You also have to pay attention to the size relationship of the focal points or of the two figures. Obviously, Finn here is a lot taller than Rapunzel, so you have to show it in your drawing. Now, okay, in order to make sure that you're on the same area as the reference, you can just use the ruler tool to check the alignment of your copy with the original with your reference. No. And then you zoom out and then you check if you are in the right area. Now obviously the big forms that you see are I'm gonna use a different color for this one. There. Wait. Uh, uh, this one maybe. Okay. So this is big form number one. Then this is big form number two. Okay. As you can see, what's happening here is these two forms provide a sort of framing device. Okay, framing device for our focal point here. So this is the focal point, right? So they are surrounded by these two big cylindrical shapes or big columns. So what it does is when you combine this big column and then you add this other column here, or if you combine these two shapes as this one humongous shape, you're trying to form a sort of you're trying to form a picture frame. Or you're trying to frame this focal point in between these two big forms. So what it does is, well, it's it's like a picture frame. Whatever is inside that frame becomes a center of interest, or it becomes automatically interesting because it's surrounded by these border, and it's trying um, to say, hey, this is where you should look. We framed it for you. So look this way. Look at this way. Okay. So we're gonna do that here on our. We're gonna do another layer, and then let's draw two big forms. Okay. So this is big form 1, then this is going to be big form number 2. Okay, as I said a while ago, um, these two big forms here are trying to form a framing device for the focal point. Now, in order to make things more interesting and not just, hey, look at this frame. Um, for example, oh, look at this, we framed it. Looks so great, right? If the artist just drew it this way, it's gonna be way obvious that he's just trying to frame the focal point in order to make it more attractive to the viewer. But that's gonna be so blatant, so obvious, and so amateurish that the piece will end up weaker because of its obvious composition devices. So you have to hide it. You have to make it look natural. You have to make it a bit subliminal. So what he did was he I'm going to show it here. Hmm, wait. Okay. Device. No. No. Okay, here. From this area. Okay, it's a bit squarish, right? Squarish. Now, what he did was he added more elements, or he broke down this shape here by way of adding this this big root here and then another root here, and then instead of moving this branch straight to the left, he made it a bit curvy and then slightly moving downwards to the left. So what he did was he made a more interesting shape compared to, well, it's a square, right? So again, he broke it down from this simple shape, okay, the simple shape of a square or a rectangle shape. He added more interest by introducing subforms. Okay, subforms on that frame device. Now he added these. He managed to break down that board framing device by way of the branches of the trees. So he did it in a very natural way, right? Now what he did next was these areas here and here. Look at these areas on my part. Okay, these areas are still boring. Okay, again, from this big form here, he added sets of medium forms. Okay, medium forms here, medium forms here, to make this blank space to the left and then to the right to be more interesting by way again of adding adding branches to these big forms. If it's just a big ass trunk, it's gonna be boring. So so in order for the big forms to work, you need to support them with medium forms. Okay? So this is the big trunk. Now in order to make it more interesting, you can add medium shapes. So what it does composition wise is it's again creating interesting shapes. Okay? You're trying to create you're trying to fill the blank areas of the canvas to with more interesting shapes. So it avoids boredom on the viewer's part. So again, based from the lectures, these are the positive shapes of the tree. Okay, but he also made sure to create interesting negative shapes. Okay, between the positive shapes of the tree. If we okay, I'm gonna try to paint over. Okay, paint over. If I remove this here, yeah, let's say there, and then move it here, it becomes less interesting, and your eyes tend to linger on this part because it looks so out of place. You're trying to figure out, hey, there's something wrong on this side of the tree. Aren't there? Aren't they supposed to have more branches? Okay, so what he did was, in order to make this more interesting, he broke it down by adding more branches. Okay, now I'm just finding first this big forms and then the medium forms because I need to make sure that they're properly placed composition wise because the small forms will come next, and if these are placed incorrectly, these big forms, everything will fall apart. I need to make sure that they are properly drawn. Look at this. Another observation that I saw. Okay, You see this shape here? He broke it down again by adding this tree stump. Okay, again, he created a better shape, a more interesting shape. Okay, for that composition. So you already established, okay, the focal point, then the big forms, and how the big forms have created a sort of framing device for the composition. Now next we're gonna identify the smaller forms. Okay?